Hey guys, so in this one I'm going to talk to you all about how to approach achieving your goals as an actor. I'm going to share with you a bit of a system. It's been very useful to me over the past few years. Something I've adopted quite recently actually in my life. And I don't think it will just help you as an actor, but it's going to help you as a person in general as well. You might have some goal setting systems that you already use as well. If you don't have a goal setting system already, I highly recommend that it's something that you look up and do, because if you want to be the best actor you can be, if you want to fulfill all of those ambitions that you've got, it is never up to chance, my friend. It's that you've got to put in a bit of a plan to get there. So let's dive in and share this plan. I'm sure we've all been there. This cute little hamster on a wheel, just running and running and running, feeling like we're not getting anywhere, that we're just getting tasks like this guy piled on top of us. And eventually we just feel like we're going to topple over, right? We feel a bit lost in, I kind of know what I'm trying to achieve here or what I want to achieve, but I feel like I'm taking on everything at once. And I just want to get a little bit of this, a little bit of clarity on the situation, a little bit more control as to where we might be headed and where we might be going. It is such an unpredictable lifestyle being an actor, and it's important to have that bigger overall vision as to what is this all leading to? What am I showing up each day for? This is some guidelines before we dive into the system that I follow to help achieve my goals. Is some principles to follow and guidelines to follow, like when you're achieving your goals, right? So yeah, this is the first one. Have principles that you follow. Have things that are clearly identified that are things that you do and things that you don't, right? So, for example, you might think that, well, something that isn't useful for me is spending a lot of time on social media. Even though it's a very supportive community of actors and stuff, I feel like I've spent a lot of time on there. So one principle I'm going to follow to help me move my goals forward is spending less time on social media and more time doing blah blah blah. That's an example. So clearly identify principles that you follow, because that's really helpful. I'm going to get into that in a little minute. Stick to what moves the needle forwards. So I don't know if you've heard about, it's called the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 principle. And it's the idea that 20% of the work we put into something actually has 80% of the success rate, right? So like out of that 100% of work, where the real meat is, the real juicy part, is probably about 20% of what you just did. So it's about identifying what's the main thing right now that's going to help move myself forward in my career or in my life right now. Is this just busy work? Is this just something that's filling up time? Like, I don't know, organizing your email inbox or alphabetizing your DVD collection. Stick to what is going to make a significant difference to moving the needle forward for you. So, for example, if your goal is to get an agent, then the big thing that's going to move that needle forward is writing to agents, right? Is maximizing your chances to get your emails opened by that agent. There's a resource about that in the studio, actually, if you want to check it out. So this might come to a shock to you. I titled this video How to Achieve Your Goals as an Actor, but actually a big part of achieving your goals as an actor is doing this, and it's something that actors don't talk enough about. You need to balance the areas of your life. If you just solely focus on being an actor the whole time, you're going to burn out, like for a number of reasons, right? It is a very unpredictable industry, as I mentioned already. And it's you just have a real lack of control over what your destiny is. And the thing is, the more that you pile in, if you're giving 110% to just focusing on acting the whole time, then all the other areas and parts of your life that you can focus on is going to be out of kilter. It's going to be out of balance. And what happens when things are out of balance? Well, we have upset. We have, our mental health might be at risk, for example. So it's so important that you give an equal, balanced attention to each of these areas. These are the ones that I've identified that help me. And I mean, you might add other areas on for you, but for me, like, I also find that by focusing on these individual areas, it fulfills me as a person. It adds to my acting career because am I getting more life experience, right? I always say that, it's better to be a person who's occasionally an actor than an actor who's occasionally a person. Like, and I just don't think we talk about that enough. I think there's so much pressure on just acting the whole time. So yeah, these are my areas: family and relationships. So, can include any, relationship that is positive in your life that you want to maintain. Maybe within that, you want to iron out some negative relationships as well that's been a drain on your time. Your financial goals, because no getting around this, right? There are in between times that you have as an actor, and you need to sustain yourself financially. You need to have a roof over your head. You need food. You might have a family to look after. I wrote that Ultimate Guide to Side Hustles for Actors, which focuses on side hustles that really help actors in that in between times. I'm excited to be talking to Kirsty J. Curtis. I'm recording this on the 30th of January. We're talking to Kirsty J. Curtis in the studio live tomorrow in a Q&A. And yeah, it'll be on the recording if you're catching this later than that date. And check it out. It's really good, even though this is in the past. But I know it's going to be good. But yeah, your financial situation, yeah, again, it needs attention, and that's something to make some goals for. Because if you're just constantly scrimping and scraping and getting by, it's always just going to be so tough. Health and well-being is obvious, right? It is our tools as actors, our voice, our body, our mind. You need to keep these things in shape, because if you're not, you're on a slippery slope, right? Obviously, career is 100% your acting goals, and that might be a bit more nuanced. Maybe, like for me, when I look at my career stuff now, acting coaching is like a huge thing for me as well, so whatever might fall into the realm of career. And then this last one's personal. Like, sometimes we just don't give ourselves enough time just to enjoy ourselves in life, right? Just to, depending on what you believe, we've got one life and you've got to live it to the max. And, like those crazy things. Like, I find the personal section of my goals is like just so wide and varied. It can be from like, I want to skydive to I want to do some stand-up comedy or whatever, like just whatever is going to make you feel happy personally, in you. I keep it fun, that bit. So those are the areas that I try and condense my thoughts in terms of goals into. So the first step of this system that I apply, and I do this probably every 6 months. Like, I refresh these every 6 months. I do it at the start of the year and I do it halfway through the year. And yeah, totally. Like, if you're cynical to New Year's resolutions or they don't work or whatever, like, yeah, because that's just because you made a resolution and said it to a couple of people and then sort of never made any action to actually apply it, right? This system is all about application. It's all about like showing up consistently day after day, because that's the only way you're going to make these changes and reach these ambitions in your life. Like, you can do it, you can get there, definitely, but you need to show up day in, day out on those days where you just really can't be bothered and stuff, and be constantly going back to that principle of moving the needle forward. Are you doing something each day to move the needle forward? So yeah, first step of this system is brainstorming. So you're literally going to open up a book. I mean, for some of you, you might prefer to type. For some of you, you might prefer to do a voice message on this. For me, there's just something really personal about writing it down. Like, it feels almost like a pledge. If you have a book that's dedicated towards this, you don't need to share it with anybody. It can be completely personal to you, but just write it down, and emphasis on brainstorming at this point, right? Don't worry so much about each of these individual sections that we've been talking about, but dream big. Like, if you could have everything, because I think if you're from the UK, which I know a lot of you are in here, we tend to undermine our abilities. We tend to have this cynical sort of humor, right? We don't dream big. We don't like, we're not naturally sort of culturally designed to think big. If you could have anything you wanted, right? Not like, stuff that you just need, like anything in the world that you wanted, write it down. It is such a fun exercise. The first time I did it, once I'd been a couple of minutes into it, I was like, wow, like, this is unbelievable. I'm giving myself license to want these things, and and dream big. So just write and set that timer for at least 10 minutes, you know. If you want to go more than 10 minutes, do. But give yourself 10 minutes, free writing, just writing notes. I want this. I would like this. Yeah? And see what you come up with. So once you've gone through the brainstorming section, then chances are you'll be filled with some very colourful pages of what you want and what you want to achieve. The next step for me in this system is I put family and relationships, financial, health and well-being. I try and identify each goal that I've written in my brainstorm. Yeah, I try to categorize it into sections. So if I just written, I want to have Amanda Howard as my agent or something. It was just the name that came in my head just now. Then obviously that would fall under the career goal. If it is, I want to drink less alcohol, then that would be under health and well-being, and so on and so forth. So you're categorizing each section. And that takes a little bit of time, but hey, this is about achieving your goals, right? So go through it and do the work. From there, I'd open up a new page of this book and I'd start to identify little sections, right? So I'd have my career section. I'd go back to my brainstorming list and I'd list each of those goals at the top of the page. And then I'd add any other goals. Like I might have more specific goals to my career goals that I didn't manage to write in the brainstorming as well. So at the top of the page, you title it career and then you put your list of goals. Then this is for me, one of the magic parts, right? I write a pledge. I write to myself as if it's going to happen by blah, blah, blah date here. Yeah. That can be by 2023, by next week, whatever it might be. I will achieve blank. You know, whatever you want to achieve, whatever it is in that goals at the top, I will achieve this. This bit's the magic part. This bit's the key. I will do this by. What you're going to start to do is visualize how you're going to get there. Because if you pick this really insurmountable goal, like how are you going to start to do it? Like realistically, how are you going to make that journey? Then, at the bottom here, I'd write next steps. And these are just notes, right? And I'd identify what's a short-term next step to get to this goal. What's a mid-term? So if this is like a 2-year goal, where should I be in a year's time? Like what would be realistic for that? And then long-term, you write the end goal, like what you've achieved at the end. And then obviously you repeat that for each section. You do it for family and relationships, you do it for personal, you do it for financial, and so on and so forth. This is another part of the magic sauce to those goals, right? If you don't do this part, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to happen. You're not going to move forward with these, right? What I do in the morning, every morning and every night, I don't like look at the book and look what I've written down as my goals. I just check in mentally. I think, how am I doing with some of these goals today, right? I just run through them in my head. The more you run through them in your head, the more they become second nature and become a part of your life, right? And I just check in. What would be good? And I keep asking myself that question. What would be good to move the needle forward today? Like that 80-20 thing. What's something that I can do 20% of the work on that's going to make 80% of the impact, you know? And it just helps every day by checking in the morning and just before you go to sleep. Like if you do it before you go to sleep, your brain is processing all of these thoughts as you sleep. For some reason, you just wake up in the morning quite intentional. And yeah, it becomes a bit of a mantra. And 2, it just avoids you getting distracted, right? It avoids you getting involved in stuff that's not helpful to you. It allows you to say no a little bit more. And then, you know, this is a big part of it as well. Check in at the end of each month, right? I'm not saying you check in weekly, daily, like on this level, but at the end of each month, just like check up. How have you done with some of these goals? And like I write a little score next to each one. So like how I was saying, I wrote the goals at the top of the page. I'd give myself a rating for each one. So like if one of my goals or my next steps, for instance, was writing to casting directors, then I'm going to give my score. How did I do writing to casting directors that month? Because Are you going to achieve every single thing on your list every single month? Are you going to manage to perfectly give attention to every single part of it? Of course you're not. Of course you're not. Like, there's some months where some things are a 1 out of 5 for me, and then other things are a 5 out of 5. But the point being, if you consistently see something that's a 1 out of 5 after month 1 and month 2, then you start to think, oh, that's something I'm really neglecting in my life. Like, maybe I need to look at that a little bit more thoroughly. And it allows you to pay more attention to it. And then also you just get these small wins. You're like, wow, I never realized there was a 4 out of 5 for this. That's awesome. And it gives you that boost. Right, final thing I'm going to share with you guys is this. This has been hugely effective to me to keep into goals. Yet again, if you're from the UK, chances are you're very polite, because we are as a society. And if somebody asks us to do something, we feel awful about saying no about it. Even if we could really, I'd hate to do that. That's a huge waste of my time. For some reason, we still say yes to these things. Here's the thing you need to do to stop that from happening. Make yourself a calendar and stick to it, right? Look at the days of the month. Fill your days with, I'm doing this. Like, I write it down in a little bit of a grid for myself. You might want to write it down in a calendar, whatever you want to do. But like, have things booked into your calendar ahead of time, so that when somebody asks you, do you want to do this? Or when there's an opportunity arises that you're like, I don't think that's going to move the needle forward, then you can say, sorry, I'm busy. I can't manage that. Thank you very much for asking. Like, you leave yourself vulnerable, the more free your calendar is. And if you've left yourself vulnerable to distractions, then the less you're going to be approaching these goals, the more you're going to be that hamster on the wheel, the more you're going to feel lost, and you're going to be back to square one. So that's a big one that I'd sort of recommend as well, having a calendar. All right, it was a bit different this video. It's I hope you see how it can be applicable to generating that next steps in your acting career. A lot of more of my videos are going to be acting technique based stuff and that, but I just don't think we take enough time to talk about this as actors, right? And having that holistic approach, I think, is key to being in this for the long term, which I want all you guys to be. These are 2 books that really helped me come round to this way of thinking and sort of come up with a system. First one is by Mike Pettigrew. It's called The Most Powerful Goal Achievement System in the World. And yeah, if you want to go much further in depth with goal setting and stuff than I just did there, then that's a great book to have a look at. And then High Performance Habits by a guy called Brendan Bouchard. He's got a podcast as well, which is really good. And it just helps you, right? In those days where you're just feeling like, man, I'm just feeling a bit lost and down right now, which I imagine a lot of people are at this time. To lift yourself out of that and realize that there's a bigger picture, right? By like dreaming big for the future, you can have real power in the present moment. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it makes you think about your goals a little bit more. And I'll see you around the studio. Thank you very much, my friends.